Hello everyone and welcome to this week's commentary in English of a game that was played in 1995. Red was Grandmaster Liu Dianzhong, Black was Grandmaster Lin Hongmin from Shanghai. Both Grandmasters were very famous back in the 1980s and 90s. Commentary of this book is from Deceptions and Countermeasures in the Xiangqi opening. This was board number 8 in the appendix that was given in the book. So without further ado, let us begin this very exciting commentary. Master Liu Dianzhong started with the central cannon, and Black chose to counter with the sandwich horse defense. Now, the sandwich horse defense was made famous by Grandmaster Hu Ronghua, also from Shanghai, and he and Grandmaster Lin Hongmin were longtime teammates. Grandmaster Liu Dianzhong chose the third point advancement variation before playing the Chariot, and Black countered likewise. And Red chose to develop his left horse as a edge horse so that he could keep the options of playing c8 equals to 7, c8 equals to 6, or advance the cannon across the river. Red countered steadfastly, and it was at this time that Red decided to develop his right chariot as a foul chariot. Sandwich horse defense, sorry. And in this board, Red chose to play the 5-6 cannons. Now, Grandmaster Liu Dianzhong is well known for his mastery of the 5-7 cannons, but in this board, he played the 5-6 cannons. Since the cannon had moved away, it is normal for Black to play r1 equals to 2 to try to gain control of this file. And Black chose to develop his left chariot as a ranked chariot, preparing to move to cross the palace and control this file. Now, all these moves are considered to be normal. A prophylactic defensive move. And at this point in time, Grandmaster Liu Dianzhong chose to deviate from the norm. Usually, r8 plus 4 is played. Whereby Black would counter with a4 plus 5, Red would then develop his left pawn, and Black would choose to offer a trade of chariots. Red would usually continue by either trading chariots or play r8 equals to 4. There will be different strengths and weaknesses for both colors in the different variations. But in this match, Grandmaster Liu Dianzhong chose to play p9 plus 1, enticing Black to push the chariot forward. Now this is the deceptive move in this board. So now it would seem that this was a minor change in the order of the moves, but there is much more that meets the eye. And after much thinking, Grandmaster Lin Hongmin decided to play r4 plus 4 to control the cross riverbank rank. Now this would perhaps be the best option in this situation. If Black chose to play c2 plus 4, as would seem natural to do, Red would simply play r2 plus 6 and attack this horse since the cannon had moved away. So we would increase its initiative. a4 plus 5 would be another habitual move to make, but it would not be a good idea at this point, because if a4 plus 5, Red would immediately pin the throat rank with this move and attack the horse. And if Black thought that he could capture gain material with this discovered attack, it would be wrong. And Black could lose material in just a few span of moves. So as can be seen, the horse, as mentioned earlier in my videos on the sandwich horse defense, this horse would be the congenital weakness in the sandwich horse defense formation. So that is why a4 plus 5 cannot be played also. So after much consideration, Black decided to be aggressive with r4 plus 4. And Red continued his advances with r2 plus 8 to threaten the horse again. Now this was a very aggressive and vicious play which would force Black's hand to see how he would deal with this issue. Now if Red played passively with e3 plus 1, Black would defend, make the move, retreat the cannon, and since the chariot had already left, this would be an immediate attack, forcing the chariot away, and no matter where, Red would not have gained anything in the process. So that is why e3 plus 1 is not a good idea. Instead, Black should have Red played very aggressively with r2 plus 8. And after r2 plus 8, Black would counter with p7 plus 1, offering to trade to sacrifice his pawn. Now this was a very apt and timely counter by Black. Both Grandmasters attacked and defended brilliantly. This was a true display of their skills. Now, it was imperative for Red to threaten the horse in this manner. Now, p3 plus 1 cannot be played, or Black could simply play r4 equals to 7. This pawn would not have any place to go. So if elephant moved, the pawn would lose, and Black would have managed to develop this horse. And if the sandwich horse defense, if Black were allowed to develop this horse, it will usually mean a lot of trouble for Red. So Black seizes the opportunity. So back to the main line. Black would counter aggressively with h7 plus 6, bringing his horse into action. Red captures the pawn. Black applies a pin, and Red advances his chariot at this point in time to offer a trade of material to fight for the initiative. If Black accepted the trade, he would lose tempo because the chariot had made so many moves, and allowed Red to also develop his edge horse. So this was part of Red's plans all along. So it will also be the better move in this situation. If, let's say, Red tried any other move, like say r3 plus 4, Black would simply capture the pawn, and Black would be able to achieve a very stable formation, protecting the cannon, capturing the pawn, and also offering a trade of chariots to release some tension over here. So Red's early efforts would have been made into waste. So back to the main game. Red offered a trade of chariots, now putting Black in a predicament. Okay, at this point in time in the match, r7 equals to 2 was played, which is obviously not an ideal move, because if we were to count the number of moves that the Black chariot made, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Black could have spent 5 moves just making this, just moving this chariot, only to be traded away and allowing Red to develop his horse. And Red would now have a pawn across the river. So instead, Master Yang Wenqing and Grandmaster Zhang suggested that r7 plus 1 would be the better move at this point in time, whereby Black would refuse the trade and still apply a pin to this position. The moves that they suggested were Red would still try to trade material, and because the Red chariot had moved, it would be a good time for Black to accept the trade. Shoot to dislodge the Red chariot, and dislodge the Red chariot again. Now this is a very important intermediate move to position the Black chariot at a better line, so that he could play c2 equals to 3, etc. later on. And Black would now move his chariot to safety, threatening to capture the cannon. And if the cannon were captured, Red's attack would be nullified. It would become a rather drawish situation, and Black can be satisfied with the situation at this point in time. So red will have trouble making advances, and red would be forced to spend a few moves trying to adjust his very awkward position at this point in time. So that is why r7+1 would be the suggested move. Now, capturing the pawn, what would happen if black decided to capture the pawn? Red will accept the trade of chariots, and after trading chariots, the red horse will now be free to go. And black could be forced to defend, because if it crossed the river, if it crossed the river, there would not be any good intersections for further development. And as can be seen at this point in time, red would have an advantage firmly in hand. He could prepare to play 6 goes to 3, etc. And after just 17 plies, as can be seen, black's position would be very awkward, and red would have already pushed the major piece across the river and was now preparing to continue attacking. So red would have the advantage firmly in hand, and that is why r7-1 would not be a good idea. But perhaps this r7-1 would still have been better than what happened in the match. Unfortunately, Grandmaster Lin Hongmin decided to accept the trade, and this resulted in a huge loss of tempo. Now he placed all his hopes on this horse that just crossed the river. But the pawn, red would now simply trudge the pawn across the river, threatening to capture the horse. And black counters very aggressively, offering a trade of material. And as part of his plans, and in the match, black decided to capture the horse. Now this was a move that was played out of desperation. If black, let's say, decided to move his cannon to safety, that's with c6 equals to 9, red would now retreat his horse to attack the black horse, and then move the cannon away back to the second file, threatening to attack the chariot. Now this is a very interesting position because the black horse cannot advance. It has been blocked by the cannon, and it cannot retreat or it will be captured by the pawn. So the black horse will now be placed in a rather embarrassing situation. So usually black would choose to trade cannons, and after trading cannons, again this red will continue to attack this major flaw in black's formation, forcing the chariot away, and red will gain material because the chariot cannot move. So that is why c6 equals to 9 would not be a good idea. So the traps are shown here to gain material are very interesting and should provide inspiration for many players. So red accepts the trade and manages to get the pawn into the black palace, and this will now be a very threatening entity. To the elephant eye, and this pawn was now prepared to do a lot of damage. Now it would appear normal for black to defend in this manner. However, there was a mistake in the order of the moves. Instead, black should have taken out the central cannon so that red's attack would be halted for the time being. So this was another major blunder on black's part, and because he did not take out the red cannon, black moved the cannon away, and now this would become another major threat. Black tried to salvage his situation with b5+1, hoping to develop his horse h3+5. But there was no stopping red now. Once the cannon was here, the red horse was now maneuvered to the riverbank in a very brilliant attack. So this was basically a done game, and let us see how red managed to close out the game. Black tried to defend. Red continued to make advances, and the horse was now also breathing down Black's the king's neck. The elephant, a check, a sacrificial check, which Black dare not capture with the advisor. Oh, sorry, if Black captured with the advisor, say this would be an immediate checkmate. So that is why Black cannot capture with the advisor and had to play c1 equals to 4 instead. We will gladly accept the cannon, and if once the cannon moved to, this will be a discovered check. And as mentioned earlier, Black cannot capture the red horse, or this would be an immediate check. So Black tried to salvage the situation by offering a trade of material, but Red would have none of it and moved the cannon away for a discovered check. And he, at this point in time, he would trade material. Now, at this point in time, Black resigned. But why did he resign? Let us see. Now, theoretically, Black would have to capture the Chariot, but by doing so, Red would gain a checkmate. How will Red gain a checkmate? He will start with delivering a check with c4 equals to 6, and the only way that Black could salvage this check would be to play h3 plus 4. Black would take the opportunity to deliver another check. This would be a discovered check, and adjust the position of his horse. And Red will now advance his cannon forward, threatening to go for the horse cannon checkmate again with h8 plus 6. And since Black cannot defend with h3 plus 4, he will be forced to retreat the horse, so that if Red attacked with h8 plus 6, he could defend with h2 plus 4. But Red will now change the direction of his attack and go for the elbow horse attack. Black would try to bring his horses back, because now since the elbow horse was already in position, Red would now retreat his cannon and try to maneuver them into the same file for the checkmate. So Black would try to retreat his horse, and Red would pull his cannon back, and Red would now attempt to checkmate with h8 equals to 6, which Black must defend in this manner. But in doing so, Red will simply move the cannon forward and threaten to checkmate with c8 equals to 6, forcing the horse to advance again to cover this intersection. But when doing so, Red will simply retreat his cannon again, and now there will be no way that the black horse can capture the cannon, and Red will simply checkmate. It will not do Black any good if he advanced the king, because this would be a double cannon checkmate also. So that is why at this point in time, Black resigned, because if he cannot capture the Chariot, let's say, and he was forced to capture the horse, the Red Chariot will now run free, and Red will have the material advantage of 1 chariot, 2 cannons versus Black's 2 horses. So that was why Black resigned. So a short recap: the central cannon, and Red chose to delay the development of his chariot and develop his left flank. Both colors played nicely. So far so good. And at this point in time, Red decided to deviate from the norm, from the opening tabia. Black countered nicely. R2 plus 8 was part of Red's plans. Trade of pawns. R2 equals to 3 to threaten the horse. Correct move. And this was when red offered a trade of Chariot, which placed black in a predicament. Now in this move, this would be the game losing move for black. He should have played C7, R7 plus 1 instead, and black would still have a playable position. So after trading chariots, black would have lost much tempo, and the pawn would now have crossed the river, be a major threat. So black tried to mount an offensive, but it was simply too late. The cannon was crossed. The pawn would advance, a trade of material, and again, as can be seen, the pawn would have traveled very far to become a very important and major threat that black cannot ignore. Defending, advancing. Another mistake by black, who should have taken out the cannon. Now, as can be seen from the early video, if black had taken out the cannon, black might have been able to live longer. Again, after allowing the cannon to move, this file will be in trouble. It will be very dangerous for black. Black tries to defend, attack, another attack, and red chose to start his final assault. A very brilliant sacrifice, which black did not capture. Red would gain material at this point in time. A check, and victory to red. I hope you have enjoyed this short commentary, and I would like to thank Master Wenqing and Grandmaster Zhang again for giving me permission to use material from their books to make videos and promote Xiangqi. I hope you've liked the work I've been doing, and if you do, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.